welcome to the Legal Eagle this week. Our guest this week has been a Member of Parliament. He's a senior advocate of the Supreme Court. He's also been Dean of the Punjab University. He's also someone who's currently the Additional Solicitor General of India. I welcome on the show Legal Eagle, Satya Jain. Satya Jain, as we welcome you, Mr. Jain, on the show, I want to go back to when you were 23 years old. How you were tortured at the time of emergency. You were thrown into prison. How the police had tortured you. I want to go back to that time and tell us about what happened at that time, because as I was studying at that time of the cases and what happened, you took an active part in the Jai Prakash Narayan movement, and even after that, when the Chandigarh police had taken you into custody, I want to know more about how electric shocks had also been given to you. Today, I also want to then draw a contrast to what's happening in the current stage of Maharashtra, where similar kind of movement has broken out and a similar kind of systematic harassment is going on against a media channel.
See, 1974-1975, I was elected General Secretary of the Punjab University Students' Council. I was doing my MA in Political Science. And suddenly in June, 25th of June, emergency was declared. And thereafter, I was arrested at the young age of 23. After my arrest, I was taken to the CIA staff, which was in Sector 29 at that time. And I was tortured by giving me electric shocks. They wanted to know from me as to from where the posters are being printed, who are the leaders who have gone underground, and what are the activities of the people. So they gave me all torture with the grace of God. I did not divulge any information to them, and then I was sent to jail. I remained in jail for about 1 year, and during that period Shri Jai Prakash Narayan was also brought to Chandigarh, and Vijay Kumar Malhotra was also there for about 1 week, but we were never allowed to meet them. Fortunately, I was the youngest prisoner among the about 60 to 100 political prisoners in the jail, and I remember, because of my age factor, because of my commitment with the ABVP and RSS, and I got love and affection from the people, but those were the dark days. I still remember, even your close friends, your close relatives were afraid of coming and meeting you. There was a complete silence. Nothing will come in the newspaper, anything against the government. And I remember we in jail used to hear the BBC radio to know the news. When Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated in Dhaka, Bangladesh, I think we were the first in the jail to hear that news in the morning, because All India Radio announced at a much later time. Those were the dark days. Media was suppressed. The political people, all activists who were against Congress, even within the Congress, like Chandrasekhar, Krishan Kant, Ramdhan, they were all put behind the bars. I remember the people who were with us in jail, one of them later became the Chief Justice of Punjab Haryana High Court. I later became a Member of Parliament, and many other people went very high in life. But during those days, they were the blackest day, I can say, in the judicial, political and legislative history of India.
I'm completely appalled at what you are telling us, because Mr. Satya Jain, like you are telling us about those days, I wanted to ask you about the Babri case, because you're so closely associated with it. I was thinking, in my research, that's going to be my second question. But like you talking about this, you've spoken about the media, you're seeing what's happening every day, and I just have to interrupt this and talk about what's also happening in Maharashtra here, sir, because systematically you've been seeing what's happening in the state of Maharashtra, Mr. Jain. You've seen how Republic TV has been targeted by them. You're seeing how Arnab's account books are being asked for. Proceeds of crimes is a word that they've used shockingly. They're talking about illegal transactions on things that are legal transactions, and how summons are being issued. We continue to say, and not us, but now people coming on the show, judges who have been former judges who come on the show, former attorney generals on the show like Mr. Solicitor, or former solicitor generals who've been a part of the government, say they've never seen this kind of a movement like that has broken out by the state government, and this is akin to emergency. They've also seen the emergency close up, like Mr. Sorabji, like you have. What could you say needs to be done in the state of Maharashtra to put a stop to this by the Uddhav government and by a Mumbai police led by Paramveer?
See, you are absolutely right. The way Maharashtra government is working, it is just akin to the working of Mrs. Gandhi's government in 1975 during emergency. At that time also, journalists were arrested, they were not allowed to work, there was a complete censorship. But now, since after about 45 years, the situation has changed. They are not in a position to impose legally the censorship. They are not in a position to do all such of things which they did in emergency directly. Now the Maharashtra government is doing the same thing indirectly. They are trying to suppress the media. They are trying to suppress the journalists. They think that in case you have to survive, you have to only do their praise. You have to only sing the songs that they want you to sing, and they want to press. But I can tell them that the attempts that were made in 75 were much more strict and serious than what the Maharashtra government is doing today. The emergency days had gone. People throw them out, threw those people who were doing all sort of things out of power. Maharashtra government should realize that India of 2002 is entirely different. If India in 75 did not tolerate emergency and the black days of emergency, let Mr. Uddhav Thackeray and Maharashtra government know people of this country are now much better placed. They will never tolerate such type of gimmicks on the part of the Maharashtra government which are totally unconstitutional, illegal, an attempt to suppress the press which they cannot do, and they will be taught a lesson when the time comes by the people of Maharashtra and the people of the country.
Absolutely. I also, Mr. Jain, want to talk about on how the clean chit has now finally come in the Babri case. Finally, you were someone who represented in the Librahan Commission several people. A special CBI court in Lucknow acquitted all the 32 accused in the Babri case. Now this includes BJP veterans L.K. Advani, Murli Manohar Joshi, Uma Bharti. You were also incidentally present with the BJP and RSS leaders in Ayodhya on the day of the demolition. Now, as you've seen very closely this case and you've represented them, this clean chit is also a clear message to all those governments who took a very long time for a decision to come in this case.
See, I was, as you rightly pointed out, I was present in Ayodhya on 6th of December. I had gone there with a group of about 100 people from Chandigarh as a car sevak. We were about, I can say 2 or 3 furlong away from the disputed structure. I saw with my own eyes that the dais from where Mr. Advani, Mr. Joshi, Uma Bharti, Sudarshanji, etc., all those leaders were addressing the audience was more than 1000 meters away from the disputed structure. When people started climbing that and started demolishing it, those words are there in my ears. Advani ji, Joshi ji, Uma Bharti, Rajmata Vijayaraja Scindia and Sheshadri ji, they made appeals to those people that please come down. It is not in our plan to demolish it today. Please don't do it. But people did not listen to them and they started demolishing the structure. It was around 2 p.m. when the first structure fell, then after 1.5 hours, second, and then the third. I remember that. It was the outrage of the people, car sevaks who had assembled there. It were they who were bent upon to demolish the structure. They never wanted to listen to any person. And you also might recall, in the evening around 6 p.m., Mr. Advani advised Kalyan Singh to resign and Mr. Kalyan Singh resigned. And next day there was an article published in the name of Shri Lal Krishna Advani. He was the author. It was the saddest day in my life. The Congress leadership knew it very well that all these leaders were not even near the disputed structure which was demolished. They were away from it. Lakhs of people witnessed that. But because of political vindictiveness, they involved all of them in the criminal conspiracy, registered cases against them, and after 28 years, you can imagine the trauma of 28 years on any person who has been falsely accused of an offence which he never committed, that he has been acquitted. And I am telling you as a lawyer, even forgetting for a second that I was the lawyer for all these senior leaders before the Librahan Commission, there was not even an iota of evidence against these people. But because of political reasons, they were involved as accused. I am very happy that truth has come out. They were not at all involved in the demolition, and those who, the young boys, etc., who were doing it, CBI and the government of that time never made any serious attempt to identify those people. Never made any attempt, because their purpose was not to arrest the real people who did it. Their purpose was to malign the BJP and the RSS leadership. I was there before Libran Commission for about 14 years, representing Advani ji, Joshi ji, Uma Bharti ji and other people. I cross-examined even PV Narasimha Rao, the then Prime Minister of India, who appeared before the Libran Commission. There was no evidence at all, and I am very happy, Satya Mev Jayate, the truth has come out and all of them have been acquitted. Rightly also, as a lawyer I can say, it is the perfectly legal, constitutional, sustainable order passed by the court in Lucknow.
Over the past few decades that you have been associated with the case, Mr. Jain, what was your encounter as you were interrogating everybody, including Mr. Narasimha Rao, before the Libran Commission? What were you getting an instinct when you were interrogating leaders, whether Congress and BJP? What was your sense and reasoning as to why this was being kept in the cold storage, and why systematic and successive governments, whether it was a UPA government, was not trying to give this case a final conclusion?
See, there were 2-3 angles on which we were working. As a defense lawyer, I was trying to get from those leaders and try to project my point of view in 2 directions. Number one, that it was a Ram temple which was demolished by Mir Baki, and after demolishing the temple, they constructed the mosque there. Second was that in that disputed structure, there are only the idols of Ram. Namaz has never been offered for a very long time. Third, the civil suit for the title was filed in 1948. Why the successive governments did not take steps to get it decided? Why the decision was delayed? Another point, that so far as the demolition is concerned, it was not because of the BJP RSS leaders, it was in spite of the BJP RSS leaders. They cannot be blamed for the demolition. And when Narasimha Rao ji came in the witness box, I remember, he described that structure as Babri Masjid, Babri Masjid. I put him a question. I say, Mr. Narasimha Rao, you were the Prime Minister of India when this structure was demolished. The Government of India published a white paper on this issue when you were the Prime Minister. And in the white paper, you used the words Ram Janam Bhoomi Babri Masjid disputed structure. And today you are saying it was Babri Masjid. I said this was never the case of the Government of India, that it was a Babri Masjid. And I am very happy he replied very positively. He said, yes, I stand corrected. It was the stand of the Government of India that it is a Ram Janam Bhoomi Babri Masjid disputed structure. So we were successful in leading evidence that the demolition was not done by any of these senior leaders of the party. It was the outrage of the car sevaks at the spur of the moment. You might recall even the observer, Mr. I think he was Gauri Shankar, or I am sorry if I am not remembering the name rightly. The car seva was to start at 11. He reported to the Supreme Court about 5-7 minutes before the car seva began that everything is okay. It was as sudden, as surprising that people start demolishing it. And I am very happy that now, after about 500 years, I am using those words, after about 492 or 500 years, the truth has come out. Ram temple is going to be constructed there. All those who were falsely implicated in these cases, they have also been acquitted. And hoye soi jo Ram rachi rakha, whatever Ram has laid down, we are going towards that direction.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you a personal question. You've been arrested at 23. You've been given electric shocks by the Chandigarh police at that time. You've been a dean of the Punjab University. You've had a very close association with the RSS, with the ABVP since your college days. It's been a successful ride, but you really started off with your father, Ruplal Jain, Mr. Jain, by being a newspaper hawker, selling newspapers, having a hard time, and it's been a very successful milestone journey. How were those early years like? Tell our viewers about your initial years and what were they like?
See, I was born in Kharar town, which is about 14 kilometers from Chandigarh. My father, late Shri Rupalal Jain, was a newspaper agent at Kharad. When I was in 10th class, he suffered from bronchitis. So we are four brothers. We used to help him in the distribution of the newspapers. I was a student of Christian High School, Kharad. Then I used to distribute newspapers on cycle at Kharad. Then go to school, Christian High School, where I did my matriculation. Then I came to college, and the whole family was economically belonged to very hard section of society. My father taught me to work with commitment, honesty, sincerity and dedication. It was at that time that I got the habit of reading newspapers, because all newspapers used to come there. We used to distribute them. Then I did my BA with honors in political science. Then I did my MA in political science. Then I was arrested, and after my release from jail, I was not given admission in Punjab University Law Department because I was a student leader, and according to Mrs. Indira Gandhi's government, it was a sin to be a student leader against the Congress government at that time. So I went to Dehradun, DAV College, Karanpur Chowk, Dehradun, affiliated to Gadwal University, Srinagar, from where I did my LLB in 79, and then I joined my profession. During this period, when I was 24 years of age, my organization put me as a candidate from the graduates constituency to contest election to Punjab University Senate during 76, and I was elected from there at the young age of 24. The same university which refused me admission in the law department in 75 and later arrested me in the evening, I became the dean of the faculty of the Punjab University itself and remained there for a long time. I am grateful to the Almighty God, who has been very helpful to me, very graceful to me. I remember my father, the hard work that he did, my mother, who was very, very calm lady, religious lady, they taught me honesty, sincerity, dedication and commitment. The God has been very kind to me. From a newspaper hawker, I could become a member of parliament. I represented very senior leaders of the party in various distant courts, including the Honorable Vice President of India, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, the Honorable former Deputy Prime Minister Advani ji, Sushma ji, Prem Kumar Dhumal, Shanta Kumar, and even Congress side leaders, Mr. Harcharan Singh Brad, the Chief Minister of Punjab. I represented him also. I represented the former Chief Justice Meher Singh of the Punjab and Haryana High Court. He had to file a case in the High Court. He engaged me as a lawyer. Out of 24 High Courts, with the grace of God, I have appeared by now in 19 High Courts in the country, including Jabalpur, Karnataka, Allahabad, Ahmedabad, Sikkim, Guwahati, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Delhi, Uttarakhand, Punjab, Haryana, etc., in addition to the Supreme Court. And I wish God should be kind to everyone like God has been kind to me.
Absolutely. I would like to thank you for this interview, Mr. Jain, and wish you all the best for your future endeavors. And when you spoke about the emergency, you also drew that conclusion with what's happening in Maharashtra. It leaves us with a very clear picture and a warning to the Maharashtra government and Parambir-led Mumbai police that this kind of emergency-like situation you're creating in Maharashtra cannot go on for too long. I thank you for being with us and wishing you all the very best. We end this Legal. Thank you for being with us, and also viewers, thank you for watching. See you next week.